The billionaire heiress collapsed in terror, her chest tightening as her own husband's men closed in to finish her. But then, her driver, the man she was never supposed to love, pressed his lips against hers. Not for romance, but to save her life. And from that forbidden kiss, everything changed. But how did it come to this? This is how it all started. The chandeliers of the Cape Town Hilton sparkled like diamonds as Amelia Carter walked down the aisle in her designer gown. She was marrying Daniel Smith, the man every woman envied, the man who had swept her off her feet with charm, money, and promises of forever. Guests whispered, cameras flashed, and her billionaire father, Edward Carter, beamed with pride. But not everyone celebrated. Standing at the edge of the hall, almost invisible in his plain black suit, was Michael Johnson, the family's loyal driver. He had driven Amelia to every fitting, every dinner date, every meeting with Daniel. And though he kept his eyes down, he noticed things others didn't: Daniel's cold glances when Amelia wasn't looking, the secret phone calls, the smirk that appeared when money was mentioned. As Amelia and Daniel exchanged vows, Michael's stomach tightened. Something felt wrong. Love was supposed to glow. But Daniel's smile looked like a mask. Later that night, while guests danced, Michael parked the limousine outside. He lit a cigarette, trying to shake off the unease. That was when he overheard Daniel's best man whispering, "She has no idea, does she? Once the old man is gone, everything will be yours." Daniel laughed softly, answering, "She'll never see it coming." Michael froze. His hand trembled as the cigarette fell to the ground. Did Amelia just marry her savior or her executioner? Inside, Amelia clung to her husband, believing she had married the man of her dreams. Her heart was full, her eyes blind. She didn't notice Michael's troubled gaze when he returned to the ballroom. And so, the night ended with applause, kisses, and laughter. But hidden beneath the glamour was the seed of betrayal. Amelia was walking into a life of danger, and the only man who could save her, the driver, already knew too much. The honeymoon in Mauritius was supposed to be perfect. Amelia woke up every morning to the sound of waves and Daniel's arms around her. She thought she was the luckiest woman alive. But Michael's mind was restless back in Cape Town. He couldn't forget what he overheard on the wedding night. 1 week later, Amelia and Daniel returned home. The mansion was filled with flowers and gifts, but Michael noticed how Daniel didn't even glance at Amelia when they walked in. He went straight to his study and locked the door. Amelia, excited, followed him with a glass of wine. A few minutes later, Michael heard raised voices. "Why are you shutting me out, Daniel? We just got married." Amelia cried. "Not now, Amelia," Daniel snapped. "You don't understand how business works." Michael stood outside, pretending to dust the car, but every word cut deep. Amelia's dream marriage was already showing cracks. That evening, Amelia's father came for dinner. Edward Carter was a sharp man who built his empire with sweat and sacrifice. He looked Daniel in the eye and said, "Take care of my daughter, or you'll answer to me." Daniel smiled politely, but Michael noticed his jaw tighten. Later, as Michael drove Edward home, the old man sighed. "I don't trust that boy," he muttered. Michael gripped the steering wheel but said nothing. He wasn't supposed to interfere. He was just the driver. 2 nights later, Amelia walked into the kitchen for a glass of water. Through the half-open study door, she saw Daniel on the phone. His words froze her. Yes, once her father is gone, everything will be transferred. She's too naive to question it. Amelia's heart pounded. She stepped back, covering her mouth. She wanted to believe she misheard, but doubt was born. For the first time, Amelia wondered if her dream husband had married her for love or for something far darker. Amelia couldn't sleep that night. Daniel's words kept replaying in her mind. Once her father is gone, what did he mean? Was he joking? Or was there something more? In the morning, Daniel was his usual self, smiling, kissing her forehead, acting like the perfect husband. "Breakfast in bed?" he asked, carrying a tray. Amelia forced a smile, but inside, she was trembling. She told herself not to panic. Maybe she misunderstood. Maybe she was just tired. But when Daniel left for a meeting, she sat on the bed staring at the untouched food. Something didn't feel right. Later that day, Michael drove Amelia to a charity event. She sat quietly in the back seat, her eyes on the window. Michael glanced at her through the mirror. "Are you okay, madam?" he asked softly. Amelia forced another smile. "I'm fine." But she wasn't. And Michael knew it. At the event, everyone praised Daniel. He shook hands, laughed loudly, and charmed the crowd. To them, he was the perfect husband and successful businessman. But Amelia watched him closely. Every smile looked fake. Every compliment sounded rehearsed. That night, she tried to talk to him. "Daniel, do you really love me?" she asked, her voice breaking. Daniel froze, then laughed. "Why would you ask such a thing? Of course I do." But he didn't hug her. He didn't even look her in the eye. Amelia lay awake long after he fell asleep. Her heart wanted to believe him, but her mind whispered another truth. The next day, while cleaning the car, Michael noticed Amelia sitting alone in the garden. Her eyes were red from crying. For the first time, he saw the weight she carried. He wanted to tell her what he overheard. He wanted to protect her. But one thing held him back: if Daniel found out, both of them could be in danger. And so, the doubts grew in silence. Amelia smiled for the world, but inside, she was drowning in fear. It was a rainy evening when Amelia finally broke down. She had just returned from a business dinner with Daniel. He ignored her the entire night, only speaking when the cameras were on. In the car, she stared out the window, her tears hidden by the dark glass. Michael drove quietly. He had seen enough to know she was suffering. His hands gripped the steering wheel, but his heart wrestled with a decision. Should he keep quiet, or tell her the truth he had been carrying since the wedding night? When they reached the mansion, Daniel rushed inside to take another phone call. Amelia remained in the car, her shoulders slumped. Michael turned slowly. "Madam," he whispered. She looked at him, surprised by the softness in his voice. "Forgive me for speaking out of place," he continued. "But you must be careful with Mr. Daniel. I don't think he is the man you believe he is." Amelia's breath caught. "What are you saying?" Michael hesitated, lowering his voice even more. "On your wedding night, I heard him talking about your father's empire. He said, once your father is gone, everything will be his." Amelia's eyes widened, her lips trembling. No, that can't be true. You must have misheard." "I wish I had," Michael replied, his gaze steady. "But I've seen the way he looks at your father's business. And at you." For a moment, silence filled the car. The rain tapped against the roof. Amelia shook her head, fighting the truth, but deep down she knew Michael wasn't lying. "Please, madam," Michael added gently, "watch him closely. Don't let him see your fear. Pretend everything is normal." Amelia wiped her tears and nodded slowly. For the first time, she felt truly afraid. If her husband could betray her love, what else was he capable of? As she stepped out of the car, Daniel's voice echoed from inside the house, loud and angry on another secret call. Amelia's heart pounded. The man she thought was her dream might actually be her nightmare. Days passed, and Amelia tried to act normal around Daniel. She smiled, laughed at his jokes, and pretended she wasn't shaken by Michael's warning. But every moment with Daniel now felt like walking on glass. Daniel had changed. He was colder. He came home late most nights, smelling of expensive whiskey and strange perfume. When Amelia asked where he'd been, he snapped, "Stop questioning me like a child. I'm handling business." One evening, Amelia's father, Edward, invited the couple to dinner. Over steak and wine, Edward proudly announced he was updating his will. "Everything will remain in the family," he said warmly. "Amelia, you and Daniel will continue my legacy." Daniel's smile was wide, but his eyes gave him away. Michael, who stood quietly by the door, noticed it, the hunger, the calculation. Later that night, Amelia walked into the study and found Daniel burning documents in the fireplace. She gasped. "What are you doing?" Daniel turned sharply, his face dark. "Mind your own business. Those are my father's files," she cried. He stepped closer, his voice cold. "And soon, they'll be mine." Amelia froze. He didn't even bother to hide it anymore. The next day, Michael saw Daniel speaking with two strange men near the gate. Their faces were rough, their voices low. When Daniel noticed Michael watching, he quickly dismissed the men and sneered at the driver. That night, Amelia woke to a loud bang in the kitchen. She rushed downstairs to find the window smashed and glass on the floor. Daniel stood there with a baseball bat. "A thief broke in," he explained calmly, too calmly. "But don't worry, I handled it." Amelia's stomach twisted. The way he said it, the way he smiled, it didn't feel like a robbery. It felt like a message. For the first time, Amelia realized Daniel's plan was no longer in the shadows. He had already made his first move. Amelia woke the next morning with a heavy heart. The broken window still haunted her. She couldn't shake the feeling that Daniel himself had staged the break-in. But why? At breakfast, Daniel acted as if nothing happened. He poured her orange juice and smiled. "You must be more careful, Amelia. The world is dangerous." His words sounded sweet, but his eyes were ice cold. That afternoon, Daniel insisted Amelia join him for a drive to a construction site he claimed was part of a new business deal. Michael drove them. As they headed out of the city, Amelia noticed the road getting quieter, the surroundings more isolated. Her heart began to race. "Where are we going?" she asked softly. "You'll see," Daniel replied, his tone flat. Michael's eyes flicked to the mirror. He didn't like this. He could feel the tension in his bones. Finally, they arrived at a half-built warehouse on the edge of town. The place was empty, eerie, too quiet. Daniel told Amelia to get out. "I want to show you something." Michael quickly stepped out too, pretending to check the car, but staying close. Inside the warehouse, Amelia shivered. "Why are we here, Daniel?" He smiled thinly. "Because this is where our future begins." Suddenly, two of the men Michael had seen before appeared from the shadows. Amelia's breath caught. She stepped back, but Daniel grabbed her wrist. "Daniel, what's happening?" she whispered, fear in her eyes. "Relax, my love," Daniel said coldly. "You'll thank me later." Michael's fists clenched as he watched. He knew if he didn't act now, something terrible would happen. "Sir," Michael said carefully, stepping forward, "maybe Madam should go home. This place isn't safe." Daniel's glare cut through him. "Stay out of this, driver. You're paid to keep your mouth shut." The men moved closer. Amelia's heart pounded. In that moment, she realized this wasn't just a trap for her father's empire. It was a trap for her life. And Michael was the only one standing between her and danger. The men closed in, their footsteps echoing in the empty warehouse. Amelia's hand trembled in Daniel's grip. She could see it now, this was no business deal. This was a setup. "Daniel, please," she begged, "you're scaring me." He leaned close and whispered coldly, "You should be scared. Soon, you'll be nothing but a memory." Michael's chest tightened. He stepped forward, his voice steady but firm. "Sir, this has gone too far. Let her go." Daniel's eyes blazed with anger. "Shut up, Michael. You forget your place." The two men reached for Amelia, and she screamed. Instinct took over. Michael shoved Daniel aside and pulled Amelia into his arms. One of the men swung, and Michael barely dodged. In the chaos, Amelia gasped for breath, her chest tightening, panic rising. She collapsed, her body shaking. I can't breathe," she cried. Michael knew she was in shock. Without thinking twice, he lowered her to the ground and pressed his lips to hers, kissing her to force air into her lungs. His heart raced. This wasn't romance, this was survival. "Stay with me, madam," he begged between breaths. Daniel froze in shock. The sight of his wife's lips on the driver's sent him into a rage. "What the hell do you think you're doing?" he roared, grabbing a metal pipe. But Amelia coughed, her eyes flying open. She clung to Michael's shirt, gasping for air. That kiss had saved her. Michael pulled her up quickly. "Run," he shouted. The two men lunged again, but Michael fought back, throwing a desperate punch. He took a blow to the ribs but didn't stop. He grabbed Amelia's hand and pulled her toward the exit. Behind them, Daniel's furious voice echoed through the warehouse. "You'll regret this, Michael." Both of you. But Amelia didn't look back. In that moment, she knew the truth. Her husband wanted her dead, and the only man who saved her was her driver. The car roared down the road, rain slamming against the windshield. Michael's ribs ached from the fight, but his focus stayed on Amelia. She sat in the passenger seat, still shaken, her hand pressed to her lips. She could still feel the warmth of the kiss that had brought her back from the edge. Her chest tightened, not from fear this time, but from confusion. She turned to him, her voice trembling. "Michael, you kissed me." His grip on the steering wheel tightened. "I had no choice, madam. You couldn't breathe. I had to save you." Her eyes filled with tears. "Still, you risked your life for me." Michael didn't reply. His silence spoke louder than words. The boundary between them was dangerous, but the truth had already broken through. It wasn't just a kiss of survival. Something deeper had sparked. When they reached the mansion, Daniel was waiting at the door, his face unreadable. He smiled too widely. "Rough night?" he asked Amelia, kissing her on the cheek. But Amelia flinched. For the first time, she didn't want his touch. Inside, Daniel poured himself a drink, acting calm, but his eyes never left Michael. He had seen the kiss, and it burned him like fire. His driver had crossed the line. Later that night, Amelia stood by her bedroom window, staring at the city lights. Her heart was in chaos. She whispered to herself, "Why do I feel safer with my driver than with my own husband?" Downstairs, Michael sat in the servants' quarters, staring at his bruised hands. He told himself the kiss meant nothing, it was only to save her. But deep down, he couldn't erase the memory of her lips on his. The house was quiet, but danger filled the air. Daniel wasn't a man to forgive. And the forbidden bond between Amelia and Michael had only just begun. The next morning, the mansion was silent, but tension crawled through every corner. Daniel sat at the breakfast table, sipping his coffee slowly, his eyes cold and calculating. Amelia entered the room, her steps hesitant. Michael followed a few paces behind, his face expressionless, but his eyes sharp, always watching. "Good morning, darling," Daniel said smoothly, standing to kiss Amelia. She forced a smile, but when his lips touched her cheek, her stomach turned. Michael noticed. And so did Daniel. Daniel's grip lingered a second too long, his whisper venomous, "I saw everything last night." Amelia froze. Her spoon clattered onto the table. Michael's muscles tensed. Daniel leaned back in his chair, smiling like a predator. "My wife, being kissed by a driver. How low you've fallen." Amelia's heart hammered. "Daniel, please," he was saving my life. But Daniel slammed his fist on the table, making the dishes rattle. "Don't lie to me. That kiss wasn't survival. It was desire." His eyes flicked to Michael. "You think I don't know when another man looks at my wife like she's his?" Michael stood firm, voice calm but edged with steel. "Sir, with respect, I'd give my life to protect your wife. Nothing more." Daniel smirked. "We'll see about that." Later that day, Daniel made his move. He called two of his men, thick, broad-shouldered figures dressed in black. He spoke softly, but every word dripped with menace. "Teach the driver a lesson. Not enough to kill him, but enough so he remembers who owns this house, and this woman." That night, as Michael returned from checking the security gates, shadows lunged from the darkness. Fists flew. Boots struck his ribs. Blood filled his mouth. He fought back hard, but they overwhelmed him, leaving him gasping on the ground. From her balcony, Amelia saw everything. She screamed his name, tears streaming down her face, but Daniel only stood in the hallway behind her, smiling cruelly. The war for Amelia's heart had begun, and Daniel wasn't going to lose without destroying Michael first. Michael lay in his small room behind the garage, his body bruised and battered. Every breath hurt. His ribs screamed with pain, but he refused to groan. He had been beaten before in life, but this time was different. This time, it wasn't about him. It was about Amelia. The door creaked open softly. Amelia slipped inside, carrying a small bowl of warm water, bandages, and a trembling determination in her eyes. She shut the door quietly, afraid Daniel might hear. "Michael," her voice cracked as she knelt beside him. I saw what they did. I should have stopped it. Michael forced a smile, though blood stained his lip. It's not your fault, madam. He'll do worse if you keep coming here. But Amelia ignored him. She dipped a cloth in the water and gently wiped the blood from his face. Her hands shook, but her touch was tender, almost sacred. Each stroke made Michael's heart ache, not from pain, but from something deeper he tried to bury. You're risking everything for me, Amelia whispered, eyes glistening. Why? Michael's chest tightened. He wanted to say the truth, that from the first day he saw her, walking down those marble stairs in her father's mansion, his heart had been hers. But he swallowed the words. Instead, he whispered, because you deserve to live. And because your father trusted me. Tears spilled down Amelia's cheeks. She placed the bandage on his ribs, her fingers brushing against his skin. A dangerous silence filled the room. Their eyes locked, and the memory of that night, the kiss that saved her life, returned with burning force. Amelia's lips parted, her breath trembling. Michael clenched his fists, fighting every urge. Madam, he rasped, if Daniel ever finds out, he'll kill us both. Amelia's voice was barely a whisper, then let him. Because right now, I can't imagine my life without you. The confession hung in the air, heavy and dangerous. Outside, Daniel's shadow lingered, pacing the halls like a predator. He wasn't blind. He could feel Amelia slipping away, and it was driving him mad. The storm was only beginning. That night, Amelia stood by her window, staring at the city lights. Her heart was torn, but her voice was steady as she whispered, Daniel may own this house, but he will never own my heart. With Michael by my side, I will fight back. Down in the servants' quarters, Michael winced at the bruises on his ribs. Yet his eyes burned with quiet fire. I won't let him destroy her, he muttered. Even if it costs me everything. And in his study, Daniel smashed a glass against the wall, his voice dripping with rage. If I can't have Amelia, no one will. In life, true love does not always come dressed in diamonds and promises. Sometimes it hides in silence, sacrifice, and scars. Amelia now knew one truth. The man she feared most wore a ring on her finger, and the man she needed most wore the uniform of a driver. What would you do if you were Amelia? Stay with the husband who promised her the world, or risk everything for the man who saved her life? Tell us in the comments, and don't forget to subscribe for the next chapter of this thrilling story. Trust me, you don't want to miss what happens when the storm finally breaks.